At the time of filming this, we have just come out of a fairly intense, if short, heat wave, and there's another one looming at the end of this week and into the weekend. And with temperatures soaring above 30 degrees in the daytime and barely dipping below 20 at night, I wonder what your go-to is for much needed relief and cooling down. Maybe the woods, where there's a bit of extra shade. Perhaps you like to go to the coast where there's a slightly cooler breeze coming off the sea. Or maybe a paddling pool in the garden that you can just put your feet in for an hour or two in the heat of the day is enough to cool you down. But we all need somewhere to go to, don't we, when it feels like the heat is bearing down on us. And I think that's true for the weather. It's true even more so, isn't it, metaphorically, when we're going through heat waves in life, when it feels like the temperature's rising on us, whether it's due to pressure or stress, perhaps at work, perhaps at home, maybe health concerns, maybe there's just stuff that's coming at us that just feels like we can't get away from it, and we need a go-to. And it's true also, isn't it, that sometimes things are so hard and we're so kind of on the floor that we don't really even have the energy to go anywhere to get away from the pressure and from the heat. And so isn't it wonderful that as Christians, that our ultimate go-to, the God of the universe, who created us, who knows our every need, who knows exactly what we're going through, loved us enough that he came to us in the person of his Son, Jesus Christ, the ultimate Good Samaritan. When Jesus looked at us in our battered and broken state, even while we were estranged from him because of our sin, with wounds, some self-inflicted, if we're honest, many others inflicted by life in a broken world. He looked on us and he didn't pretend he didn't see us. He didn't walk by on the other side like the priest and the Levite in the parable that he tells. No, he looked and he moved towards us. And when Jesus came into the world, we read through the Gospels and he is constantly moving towards people, moving towards the outcasts, the foreigners, as well as the powerful, the rich, the religious elites, and everybody in between. Jesus saw our needs and he moves towards us. And as he moves towards us, he gives generously of his time, of his healing power, his teaching, his forgiveness, and of course, ultimately, giving his life for us when he dies on the cross for us. Jesus came to give, and to give generously, grace upon grace. You know, something that struck me afresh as I was reading through this story that he tells of the Good Samaritan is that there's so many points in the story when you think of the Good Samaritan, okay, that's probably good enough. That will be okay. And so he puts bandages on the man's wounds. That would be good enough. But no, he then pours oil and wine. He picks the man up. He takes him to an inn. Well, that's kind, that's generous, that would be good enough. But no, he stays and he cares for him. And then he gives the innkeeper some money, doesn't he? To cover kind of expenses, basic care for the man. Well, that's generous, that's kind, that will be enough. But no, he then says to the innkeeper, I'm going to come back in a few days and anything extra that this man needs, I will cover that too. Generous, extravagant grace upon grace, which is exactly what we have received from God in Jesus. For Jesus, there was never a point when he met someone and says, okay, I'll give you this and that will do you. He then just gives more. And that's true for us. And I don't know if maybe sometimes we feel like we don't need that much grace from Jesus. Well, then it's important to see who he tells this story to, because he's not actually speaking directly to the neediest in the community. He's speaking to an expert in the law. Someone has come to him and said, "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus responds, "Well, you're an expert. You know the law." And sure enough, he replies, "Yeah, I've got to love God. I've got to love my neighbor." But then he wants to justify himself. And so he asks this question. He says to Jesus, "Who is my neighbor?" And Jesus seizes an opportunity, I think, to reveal to this man and to reveal to all of us that we cannot justify ourselves. Because in this story of the Good Samaritan, who would that expert in the law have identified himself with? It would have been the priest and the Levite, wouldn't it? And to show the kind of generous love that the Good Samaritan had would have been unthinkable for him. And so as he listened and as we listen, I think we find ourselves feeling like we fall short, that we can never live up to God's standards, the requirements to be in his kingdom. We need his grace just as much as the man lying on the side of the road did. And Jesus says, "I've come to give you that grace." And then, as recipients, as those who've humbly received, we're ready to hear the punchline. A punchline that comes at the end of the story when he looks the man in the eye and he says, "Go and do likewise. Go and give as you have been given to." Give freely, give lavishly, give generously, not just to those that are like you, not just to those who you might think, well, they've had a rough time of it and they deserve a bit of help. No, give to those who don't deserve it. Give to those who are not like you, because that's what grace is. That's what we've received. You know, as a church, we want to be the world's go-to, don't we? We live in troubled times. People have troubled lives. And we want to be their go-to because we know a God who is the ultimate go-to. And yet, will we be like him, and will we go out to them? And will we show his grace as generously as he has shown it to us? Being kind to those who've never had a kind word to say either about us or to us. Being willing to share with those who are really quite selfish and tight-fisted. Being willing to give our time to those who are pretty flaky and non-committal. Being willing to give as we've been given to. That's what we've been called to do when Jesus says, "Go and do likewise."